Now, Friend Request was a movie that was supposed to come out last year in the United States. We didn't get it last year. A few European countries and other countries, they got it last year. And I saw the trailer and it looks terrible. It looked like a carbon copy of Unfriended, just done worse and not done in that gimmicky, sort of all on a computer screen way. And I wasn't looking forward to it, and it not coming out in the United States just gave me another excuse not to see a bad horror movie that year. Unfortunately, it eventually reared its head this year, and I got to see it. And it was about as bad as I expected it to be. Friend Request could be described as Unfriended meets The Ring. No, actually, scratch that. Unfriended meets Rings. It reminds me of Rings a whole lot more. Friend Request is about a girl named Laura who is played by one of the main actresses in Fear the Walking Dead. Now, Laura is a pretty sweet, kind, pretty normal girl, and she has a psych class, and she has about 800 some friends on Facebook, so she's pretty popular. One day, she gets a friend request from this one girl she doesn't really know. It's a girl that's in her psych class as well. A pretty introvert girl that is kind of a mix between a goth and an emo because she's sort of dressed in a dark hoodie and she sits by herself and doesn't really talk to anyone. And this person, who is Marina, has no friends on Facebook, which is really, really weird. It's like, do you not have family? Do you not have some friends? But anyway, Laura's like, hey, I'm going to help this girl out. I'm going to become her friend. And so Laura becomes her only one true friend on Facebook, which causes Marina to get clingy. She gets so clingy that Light doesn't want me to talk about this film. Marina gets so clingy to Laura that she spams her with messages and wants to spend almost all of her time with Laura because she sees Laura as her only friend in the entire world because she's her only Facebook friend. And eventually it disturbs Laura and they get in an argument. Well, eventually Laura unfriends Marina. And that happens to be a bad choice because this is a horror film. Now Marina goes really crazy, kills herself, and now haunts Laura on the internet through Facebook. And starts killing off her friends. So that's kind of where it's like Unfriended a little bit. Except it's not Skype, it's Facebook. And now Laura and her friends have to figure out how to stop this evil cyber ghost that is Marina. And that's the plot. Now, I don't have a lot of good things to say about Friend Request, unfortunately, because it is one of those really bad horror movies that is also pretty damn boring. But I don't have too many movies that I give 0 stars to, because normally, even in the worst films out there, I can find something that I liked about the film, and there were a few things I liked about Friend Request. For one, the cinematography was good, and it actually did win some sort of award and some sort of ceremony for cinematography. When I looked at IMDb, that's the only award that this movie has, is with cinematography. And the cinematography was good. There is some really awesome, very beautiful shots, very theatrical, and there is some moments where, hey, the camera work is good, and sometimes the camera work actually helps the jump scares in this movie, where it focuses on something that you think is going to be the jump scare doesn't happen, and then it happens a little bit later in the scene. Now granted, I don't feel the cinematography is perfect. There is a few scenes where it does clash the mood of the movie, especially the mood of a horror film, especially some of the brightly lit moments, which technically I see where they're getting at with that because it's during the moments where she's at school or home during the day, and I don't know, there's a few things with the cinematography I didn't like, but I do love some of the shots, and there is something really great, or pretty damn good, with the cinematography. Another thing that I liked about the film is there's a few small details to the horror aspect of the film that I did admire. One of them is the scene where the first person who gets killed, he's on his computer, the computer crashes and it goes to a completely black screen. And it's supposed to be just a reflection of him. But once something scary happens in the background and he turns around to see what's going on, you notice that his image on the screen is still looking at the screen as if it didn't move. Like, here's a little clip here.
Check.
And at first, I thought maybe this was a goof, maybe it's not supposed to be like this, but then you find out a little bit more about something called black mirrors, and that's when I realized, oh, it's supposed to be like that, it's supposed to be a still image there, and that's kind of creepy, it's neat. Also, when Marina and Laura get in the fight just before Marina kills herself and just before Laura unfriends her, there's a moment where Marina's hoodie comes off, and previously in the movie they said that she pulls her hair out. Well, she's got this horrible bald spot from pulling out all her hair, and that's why she has her hoodie all the time. And it adds a little bit more to the embarrassment of Marina, especially when they're in the cafeteria. And they actually use that later in the film as a horror element, because there's this one moment where she's about to attack another one of the friends, and you see the backside of Marina, and you see her head. And throughout the movie, there's an element of wasps, because wasps are supposed to help witches apparently. And so her bald spot basically kind of turns into a hive or a honeycomb, and you can see wasps coming out of it. It's a nice touch, a nice detail that I thought, wow, that's pretty horrific. Another thing that I have a bit mixed feelings for is the jump scares in this movie, because they're effective and pretty darn good jump scares. Now, also keep in mind that I'm not a fan of jump scares, but at the same time I can admire a good jump scare if it's done right. So I don't hate jump scares, but when it's a movie that just is jump scare after jump scare and there's no real good horror element other than the jump scares, then I tend to dislike the film. The jump scares, while effective, feel like it's the only real good scare in the movie, and so I'm kind of disliking about it, but at the same time I do kind of like it because they're effective and they're a little bit more unpredictable than I had imagined for a film like this. It's still a jump scare though, so bear that in mind. And I do realize that this movie does feel like it has some potential to it and could have a bit of satire or even some decent horror when it comes to Facebook and the web and her losing all her friends. And there is some horror element to how her friends get lost on Facebook, and I can see people being affected by it and people thinking this is one of the scariest internet-based ghost movies they've ever seen. But at the same time I feel that there's two movies that have done this way better than all the elements that they try to throw in Friend Request. Those two movies are Unfriended, which I did really enjoy, to be honest, and a movie that I saw this year that deals with internet addiction and addiction to Instagram, even though this is Facebook, but Instagram, in Ingrid Goes West. I didn't get to talk about that film in a movie review, But I highly enjoyed that, and I would recommend that film because it does deal with sort of internet or Instagram addiction, and it's freaking crazy. And so while I can appreciate what Friend Request tries to do in this film, there's just been other films that did it better, and that's unfortunate. And unfortunately, that's the only good things I can say about the film. I didn't like anything else in the film. Oh, another little thing that I actually liked a lot in this movie is the animation, because there is some animated segments in this film, because Marina, the crazy girl, on her posts on her Facebook, she does these cool, really gothic or really twisted animations, and the animations are really good. It's the only part of the visual effects that I actually like, is the animation, and it's almost so good that it feels like, hey, someone should have noticed this on Facebook, on her page. Someone should be her friend already. I didn't care about any of the characters in this movie. I thought some of the acting was subpar, some of it just plain bad, mainly from our main character, surprisingly, because I do like her in Fear the Walking Dead, but she's not that good in this movie, and neither is the hacker friend in this film.
What?
You have no idea how crazy that is, do you? Okay. Look at that. Oh, that is what code normally looks like. Not this. I can't even copy this. This isn't code.
Well, what is it?
I don't know.
And a few of her other friends too. They're either bland or they're just bad, and a lot of the dialogue is cheesy and pretty damn terrible as well. Now, I feel that there are moments in this film that border on satire or parody, and if you see that, you might think this whole movie is a parody or a satire, but at the same time, most of the film, other than those little moments, is played off completely seriously, and so I wonder if maybe it was revised, or one of the writers is trying to do satire and parody while the other writer is trying to do a serious horror film. So I'm not sure, but it does have really weird, awkward, funny moments in the film as well, through either dialogue or just weird occurrences. Like, one of them is the hacker friend thinks that Marina's going to kill him, and so he's all afraid, he's about to run out of the room, and he sees her wicked face in the mirror of the door, or the window of the door, and so he freaks out, he backs up, then the door opens, and it's just the janitor, and he's still freaking out, and the janitor's like, huh? And so he looks back and forth, and it's almost like it's supposed to be a comedy bit, but I wasn't so sure. There's another moment when this friend that's actually like hospitalized gets up because she's possessed by Marina now, fights with this cop, takes him down easily, takes his gun and shoots herself, and then the other cop comes in and is like, really?
Really?
Like, it almost feels like it's supposed to be a comedy bit, but at the same time, the rest of the film isn't played off like this, and so it becomes really awkward and just sort of funny bad. I feel that often the story is trying too hard and has a bunch of elements that either don't work or feel like they're forced in because, oh, this is popular in horror movies. Like, I don't know, the whole fact that Marina is a witch, or the whole backstory to Marina is really crazy and feels completely out of place in this movie. And I didn't find creepy, and I just found it would be better if she was just more unknown. And this is what gives it the Rings aspect of the film, why I said it feels like Rings, because a lot of the posts on her webpage is related to her backstory, even though it kind of wouldn't make sense why those would be on there, because it's not like those images were captured and then posted. It's like coming from her mind, but sometimes they're on there before she's dead and before she's possessing the computer. So it's almost like they made her a witch just to explain those creepy images. And those images are just there because, hey, we need to have a horror beat and our character's not dead yet. She hasn't committed suicide and did the ritual. So let's make her a witch so that we can kind of explain away those things, but it doesn't quite explain away. Like there's another moment when Laura is already having nightmares of Marina, and that's even before Marina started stalking her and before they had the fight. So why is she having terrible nightmares of Marina? And again, they try to explain that in the backstory with Marina giving nightmares to kids when she was in the orphanage or the school or wherever it was. But it came across as maybe she's only giving nightmares to the kids that are beating her up, or doing whatever they're doing with her. This is also another horror movie with really dumb cops investigating because they have no real reason to be suspecting Laura of causing the deaths of these characters, even though the deaths of these characters, there's video footage of them killing themselves, and then it goes onto her timeline because Marina, she takes over Facebook literally and basically forces the computer to post things that Laura doesn't want posted. Laura can't delete her Facebook account, she can't delete any of the videos. She is completely helpless in trying to deal with this Facebook page. And Marina just takes these suicide videos, which don't know how exactly she got them, but never mind. It's a horror movie. But anyway, the only reason that the cops are investigating Laura in this movie is because Laura's Facebook account has got posts of these kids committing suicide. And it's almost like they're investigating it in a way where they suspect Laura killed these people, even though it clearly shows these people killing themselves. Like, it's really weird. And it's like the only reason that they're investigating her is because there's even a line in the movie where it's like, you know a lot of dead people. Or there seems to be a lot of dead people around you, or something along those lines.
You really know a lot of dead people in Switzerland.
There's also another cliche in horror movies where one of the friends eventually betrays our main character and goes psycho and tries to kill everyone, as if they realize that, hey, the ghost threat really isn't that big of a threat, and we need a more physical threat in this movie. So let's just have one of the characters betray her. And I kind of understand the reasoning on why it would be in this movie and how this character would come to believe, oh, if I kill Laura, maybe we're safe, the rest of us. But at that same time, it's such a cliche that it feels like it's just thrown in there actually just to fit with the mold and just be a typical horror film. There's a few interesting things and a few funny things in this movie from a so bad that it's good perspective, but it's nowhere near as funny or as hilarious as Wish Upon. And for the most part, I was just bored with this film. I actually I did. I fell asleep for about 2 minutes while watching the film. And that doesn't normally happen to me. I've seen bad films and rewatched really terrible films just so I can be prepared for a movie review. And I don't fall asleep on those, but I fell asleep on Friend Request for the first viewing of it. So for the most part, Friend Request is just a really bad, bland horror film that we got this year. And for me, I'm going to give Friend Request 1.5 stars. It had some potential, but in the end, it's just a pretty bad film. So, did you see Friend Request? What did you think about it? Go ahead and comment below. And if you like this video and you want to see more, please subscribe and check out my other movie reviews or countdowns. As always, this is Bruce Gifford, and this was Just My Opinion.